Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this new Disclosure album, Energy. Disclosure is the UK-based house duo featuring brothers Guy and Howard Lawrence, who really caught me off guard with their debut Settle quite a few years ago now. At the time, I was certainly not hip to a lot of modern dance music, a lot of modern house music. But Disclosure, to me, on their debut Settle, knocked it out of the park with one of the freshest albums in these genres in quite a few years. It was just so much fun and such a catchy album. It seemingly saluted the past of dance and house music, but also bravely rolled into the future. But what I loved about Settle the most was its attention to detail. It's not like the brothers here were just slapping Sam Smith and Jesse Ware on a track. No, there seemed to be a legit connection, and that excited me. Now, in 2015, they did return with Caracal. This was a much more lavish and much more expensive sounding album, and you could see by the guest spots on here that they spent a whole lot more on this, with guest spots from The Weeknd and Lorde. But for me, while they certainly put a lot more into this album from a distance, the results were much more varied. Now, I've had a lot of hope for this album. As far as the new singles that they've been dropping, I feel like they've gone back in time a little bit. Gone back to a point where I thought they were putting in effort to make like a serious connection with their vocal guests. Let's chat about this. This album starts off with Watch Your Step featuring Khalees, and I may be a sucker, but I think this track absolutely is fantastic. It's upbeat, it's super fresh, it's got a great groove, and Khalees honestly sounds wonderful. Now, I will say this, Disclosure to me from a distance on this track do maybe play to some more stereotypes, sound a little bit more hip and polished, but I think they do it justice. A great dance track is just that, a great dance track, and I think that this is one of them. Then we have Lavender featuring Channel Trace. And for a while now, I've been wanting to get into Channel Trace, really appreciate some of the project's stuff, but I haven't really been blown away by anything Channel Trace has done so far. This, however, is a really fantastic tune. We get this super slick, groovy beat, but then Channel Trace brings in this swagger and sense of sexuality to the music of Disclosure, and it's something we don't really hear for the rest of this album. It's pretty fascinating. It's the sort of steamy dance floor anthem that I haven't heard yet this year, and I'm pretty happy to be hearing it now. It's a great track with a great groove, and most importantly, Disclosure to me don't seem to be picking guests willy-nilly here. No, they seem to be really forming a connection once again, and that's what really led me to enjoy some of their stuff in the past. And I'm just gonna say it, My High featuring Amine and Slow Time might be my favorite track here. This sounds like an old Prodigy B-side. It is intense. This is honestly the track that made me check this album out. I love the aggression here, and Amine and Slow Tie sound brilliant. This is great for any cardio mix or workout mix or whatever you need material for right now. And Who Knew featuring Mick Jenkins is also one of the better collaborations here. I love the watery psychedelic vibe to the beat here. This reminds me of some of Mick Jenkins' early stuff. It's very otherworldly, but it still has a hell of a dance beat. And while Mick's performance here may not be as front and center as I was hoping and praying that it would be, I will take this track over anything that he put forward on that Circus EP from earlier this year. And Douha, Mali Mali, featuring Fatamara Diawara, is pretty great as well. It's just so colorful, and I love the approach here, this sort of psychedelic, futuristic form of world music. It's got a fantastic groove and like a serious hypnotic vibe, something that I wish that they did a little bit more of here. But it also has this strangely timeless approach to it that brings me back to the glory days of their music. It progresses nicely and has a lot of lasting power. This is a great track. Now, sadly, this isn't a complete return to form. I'm not into the fractal interlude at all. As a matter of fact, it really breaks up the album, and not in a good way. It's just so boring and so sloppy, and I don't want to harp on it, but it really does mess up this wonderful groove that the band was going for. I mean, I don't know what they could have done differently here, but the last thing that I wanted to hear right now was to hear the band go for this more trip-hop sort of vibe and fall completely on their face. And Send It Pop featuring Blake Bassie, actually my least favorite track here. This is a dime a dozen beat that could be put together by any producer, I feel like, and the vocals vocals here are not up to par with any of the other contributors. It's the most phoned in track here, and this is the kind of track that I thought we were going to hear more of here. It's actually one of my greatest fears. It's just so phoned in and everything I hate about modern house music. And the rest of the album is sort of up in the air. Energy is one of the more straightforward tracks here, and I have a lot of conflicting opinions on it. I actually really love the spoken word portion of this track. That pumps me up. But this beat, once again, seems very phoned in. Doesn't have that Disclosure sound, and eventually when it does get that sound, it's been like 3 or 4 minutes. It's far too late. But the Thinking About You interlude, on the other hand, is actually really fresh and something I wish they did more of here. It's sort of jazzy, it's sort of psychedelic, it bridges a lot of gaps here. It's actually done really well too. It almost has an Avalanche's vibe to it with the very psychedelic, surreal sound and that great vocal snippet. And Birthday, featuring Sid and Kalani, is a real tough one. Sadly, it's actually lessened on me a lot since its release. As far as features go, I think Kalani and Sid have the best on this entire album. Both of their performances are stellar, but outside of that, I couldn't tell you this was a Disclosure track, not even close. It sounds like it should have been a solo track from either Sid or Kalani. The synergy is off between Disclosure and their vocal guests. Once again, my nightmares are coming true. But I do like Reverie featuring Common as a finale quite a bit. Common to me here sounds full of energy, much more so than I have in the last few years. But as decent as this track is, and trust me, it is above average, it does reflect my thoughts on this entire album, I feel like. It's good, even great at points, but it does feel a little underdeveloped. So overall, I think the bulk of this album is some of the freshest house music you're going to hear this year. Not only that, but Disclosure do seem to be back on the road to that great sound that they had on their debut, that serious chemistry between them and their contributors vibe. Not only that, the bulk of this album has a great energy to it. It's very exciting. But some of the later tracks on here are pretty tough to listen to, and I don't think that they've come full circle yet. I still think that they need to work with their contributors a little bit more, but that's just me. This is still pretty decent. I'm feeling a decent 7 here, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.